The member for Murdoch.
Mr Acting Speaker, I'm very conscious of the time and the fact that the luncheon adjournment is scheduled for 20 minutes' time. And as you can see by my build, I haven't missed too many luncheons. So I will make sure that we go to lunch on time. Again, thank you, Mr Acting Speaker, for the opportunity to address the House. I'm extremely privileged, as all the other members are, I'm sure, to represent the people, in my case, of Murdoch. And I follow, I guess, two icons of politics in Western Australia, in Barry McKinnon and Mike Board, who represented this area and made outstanding contributions over a long period of time. I'd like to pass my vote of special thanks to the Liberal Party and to Arthur Marshall, the retiring member for Dawesville, and the Honourable Colin Barnett, who probably persuaded me fairly strongly to put my hand up and I guess put your neck on the line in this quest. So I do thank them sincerely for that. I also would like to thank the pre-selection panel. It's a bit arduous going through that pre-selection process, I'm sure, as other members have noticed. And when it comes to the campaign team that I had were absolutely terrific. And I have my campaign chairman, Trevor, right in the gallery today. Thanks very much, Trevor, to you and your team. A special mention to John Bonza, my treasurer, who couldn't be here today, and Cheryl McKeating, my secretary, who just worked tirelessly to make this campaign a successful one, and to Keith Rowe, my booth coordinator, who was actually a candidate for pre-selection and then opted to help me in my quest to win the seat. And all the rest of my team and all the fundraising team as well did a fantastic job, and for that I'm eternally grateful. On polling day itself, I had 120 volunteers, which might be just about a record for some people and for some electorates, and they all did a fantastic job. Along with the member for Serpentine, Jared I'd also thank the Menzies House staff, and I guess the special thanks of all goes to my wife Lynn, who's in the gallery today, for all her support, to my sons Jared, Travis and Brett, and my daughters Sharon and Natalie, and the sons and daughters-in-law as well. A couple of them a bit too far away, but the moral support received from Sharon and Natalie was great. One from Dampier in Western Australia, the other one from Azerbaijan. And also the lights of my life, my 6 grandchildren, the fantastic moral support you get from them. I'd also like to thank my mentors in this quest and in this operation, if you could call it that, particularly Mike Board, the former member, the Honourable Simon O'Brien, from the council here, and of course Arthur Marshall. Mr Acting Speaker, if I might reiterate a little story. I've been around a little bit and had some life experiences, but I'd never actually campaigned in a political situation before and knocked on a door. So about the 6th door I knocked on back in about September last year, I used the usual spiel and said, Trevor Sprigg, Liberal candidate for Murdoch for the upcoming state election. And he interrupted me and said, "You've got no hope, mate." And I sort of hesitatingly said something about, "Oh, the other side, are we?" He said, "I've been a member of the TWE for 37 years. He said, "I voted Labor all my life and I'll continue to vote Labor. And what's more, I barrack for South Fremantle." So I had to say something like, "Well, it's great, isn't it? You've got that choice," and so on. But the fantastic thing I found out that he offered his hand, he said, "But good luck to you anyway, mate." And I thought that was just fantastic. My background is that I was born and bred on a farm, a little place called Wagen in the Upper Great Southern. And I suppose as a baby boomer, as a member for South Perth has mentioned, it wasn't always easy times. There were a couple of families living off this particular farm. So from the age of 6 or 7 years of age, the farm chores had to happen before and after school, and milking the cows and doing all that situation. And I'm indebted, I guess, for my upbringing to my mother and father. My mother, who's going on 90, is in the gallery here today. And I am indebted to you, Mum, for everything you've done for me. I just wish Dad could be here today. He passed away 13 years ago. And my upbringing was just fantastic. My first knowledge of politics was listening to debates between Robert Menzies and Dr. Evatt and Arthur Corwell. I think they had some of them in those days on the backs of trucks and so on. They were public debates. And I was taken with the wit and the sharp retorts of Robert Menzies. And he became somewhat of a cult hero to me. And so much so that at some stages I felt so sorry for Dr. Evatt and Mr. Corwell that I sort of barracked for them in some of these debates. Another hero of mine in politics was a gentleman called Crawford Nalder, who was a country party member from our local area in Wagen, and he was just a renowned gentleman and a fantastic servant of this house. And just interesting, I reflected that on those debates that we did listen to in those days, we had a lighting plant that serviced the two houses on this particular farm. And of course, if the lighting plant, the battery started to run down a little bit, well then obviously you couldn't listen to the radio. That had big batteries as well and so on. And just reflecting that some of those lighting plants might have been good in the member for Serpentine Jarradale's electorate recently. And also some of the northern suburbs. Mr. Acting Speaker, it seemed to me that my destiny was to be involved in representing people somewhere along the line. I seem to have had a lifetime of doing that, going back right in primary school as a school prefect, and then in high school as well, and then a student councillor at university and a teachers' union representative. And when I first started playing league football at East Fremantle, they wanted a player's representative on the committee. And I was the last one to sort of stand back or cower behind somebody, so I got the job. And I remember that what you had to do then was lobby for things like soap in the showers and cold squash after training. And far cry from what the players lobby for today. I served lots of sporting bodies, and I'm very proud of the 3 life memberships that I've achieved with the East Fremantle Football Club, the East Fremantle Cricket Club and the Fremantle Districts Mercantile Cricket Association. Indeed, it was Arthur Marshall that pointed out to me that I'm the 5th East Fremantle player to join the Parliament of Western Australia behind Sir Ross Hutchison, Jerry Dolan, John Tonkin, and of course Arthur Marshall himself. A little bit about the electorate of Murdoch. It's bounded by Leach Highway in the north, Carroll Avenue in the east, Hope Road in the south, and North Lake Road in the west. Very middle class suburbs of Cardinia, Winthrop, North Lake, Bateman, Murdoch, Bull Creek, Leeming, Rossmoyne, Brentwood. It's just a great place to live, a lot of small business operators in the area. We have 17 schools, Mr. Acting Speaker, and a couple of those schools are actually in the top 10 in Australia. I refer to Rossmoyne Senior High School and Leeming Senior High School as of the year 2004. But like the member for South Perth, there are big school maintenance issues in the area, particularly at Rossmoyne Primary School, who have had their application in for funding, for capital expenditure funding for some 2 years, and really haven't heard anything yet. Certainly we have to certainly follow up that situation. We have Murdoch University and St John of God Hospital in the area, and another little place we're very proud of is the Bull Creek Leeming Junior Football Club, who has produced a Brownlow medalist in Simon Black, an AFL captain in Ben Cousins, and several outstanding AFL and East Fremantle footballers. And look, one of the experiences that I've had just in the last couple of days in the house here, and speaking of football, it reminded me that I was lucky enough to sit in the coach's box with Mick Malthouse for 3 years with the West Coast Eagles as chairman of selectors. And one of the very first games that we sat in the box, one of the other selectors got a bit carried away and lost his cool and started barracking or shaking his fist at the umpires or something. And Mick, who's sort of regarded as a bit of a humorless man, is not really, because in a very stressful situation when the game is tight in the last quarter, Mick said to Tim Jepp, "Cool it, Jeppy, there's only enough room for one lunatic in this box." Well, just looking at some of the activities of the House the last couple of days, Mr. Acting Speaker, this is obviously bigger than a football coach's box. There's more room for more lunatics. The electorate of Murdoch has a major problem with the roads in the area and safety on those roads. Leach Highway and South Street now are impossible to traverse, almost, particularly in peak hour. And the Roe Highway Stage 8, which has been rejected by the Labor Party, just has to be brought back onto the agenda, or some sort of solution found. I was gratified to hear the Minister for Planning and Infrastructure this morning talking about the Tonkin Highway bypass and the value of that. Well, surely she must realise the same thing needs to happen for Roe. I was also thrilled to be selected as a shadow spokesperson for sport and recreation, because team sport has taught me the life's values that I hold dearest. That is loyalty, passion, mateship, the work towards a common goal, and no one should be denied this. I suppose in that particular area, sport is the high profile area of that particular portfolio, but recreation, as pointed out by our leader, is equally important. I think community recreation facilities, the member for South Perth referred to the ageing population. The community recreation facilities we need these days are for people to have a swim, a gym workout, a game of badminton, tennis or squash, or even just walk the dog in some cases. So we've got to make sure that those facilities are maintained. And I guess one of the other things there is with children, childhood obesity. I get very angry with my children or grandchildren who just seem to sit on the computer keyboard all the time, or the game console. And I was quoted as saying many, many years ago, because I resisted the temptation to buy a video recorder for many, many years, and I did say to my children I'd rather see them out on the road throwing rocks at tin cans or something than sitting in front of a video. As the spokesman for, the shadow spokesperson for sport and recreation, Mr. Acting Speaker, I certainly feel that it is our job to develop some policies that will become important for when we're in government again, and I guess to do a tagging job on the Minister for Sport and Recreation. Now, tagging wasn't very fashionable in my day in football, but I was chiefly a defender. But I've learnt that the tagging role means that obviously you have some accountability for your opponent, and if I can pass on to the Minister for Sport and Recreation that I'll be tagging him everywhere he goes, even when he goes out for hamburgers. I have some philosophical beliefs I'd like to share with you briefly. One of the problems I see with our society of modern days is that the human resources gurus of the world suggest that at age 45 everyone's history is on the scrap heap and is phasing down to retirement and doing all that. Well, I've got to tell you that I think I'm far more experienced, better equipped to deal with the issues of life now at age 58 than I ever was at 45. I think we've got to encourage our youth. I think we've got to support our small businesses. I think the work for the Dole scheme is terrific and should be also, expanded if possible. Maybe it's time to have another referendum on daylight saving. Not many people these days get to walk out of the office or walk out of their business at 5 o'clock. In conclusion, Mr. Acting Speaker, I know I face a huge challenge, but I make this commitment to the electors of Murdoch. I will represent you with loyalty, courage, enthusiasm and innovation so that Murdoch continues to provide a safe and happy family environment. Thank you.